So then we know that it's 1. So 2 pi over 1, which is simply 2 pi. Horizontal translation. Okay, notice how the b is outside. I mean, there's nothing in front of the x, right? So in this case, yes, I can just look at this number right here and take this as a horizontal translation. Okay, and that's only because the coefficient of x is 1. And even if it wasn't 1, since it's inside the parentheses, you set it equal to 0, and so that gives you, again, if you want to just keep the same pattern that we did, or do the same thing we did before, we set the argument equal to 0, and you solve for x. So x equals negative pi over 4. Okay, that's how you get the horizontal translation. Okay, it might be easier for you guys to just do it that way all the time. Okay, but only the argument is set equal to 0, what's inside the parentheses. Alright, and then the vertical translation is this number right here. So it's negative 2, so we keep negative 2. Okay, so let's see, we're going to need a taller graph because the amplitude is 4, and so it means we need at least 8 boxes, or 8 tick marks. So I'll draw my x-axis around here just to make sure everything fits. Because I know there's a vertical translation down, so I need more space on the bottom. And then I will draw the y-axis about here. Okay, so I'm counting by ones. And 6, and then over here, this is the y-axis and the x-axis over here. Okay, so and the period for this one is 2 pi, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to count every 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 again. It worked out that way. Pi over 2, and then this is 3 pi over 2. Okay, there's a horizontal translation to the left, so this is going to be, let's see, negative pi over 2 right here. And this is negative pi. Okay, so now because it's pi over 4 to the left, that's only one square. So see how it's nice that I use 2 squares for every tick mark? Because every tick mark is pi over 2, and pi over 4 is half of that. So then I'm just going to have to make my vertical asymptote 1 square to the left. Okay, so that's my new 0. And then my horizontal asymptote is going to go 2 units down. So right here. Okay, and I'll extend it more to the right to draw my other period. Okay, so now this is sine. I'll use red. And for sine, the zeros are beginning, and then notice every two squares is a quarter, right, of the period. So beginning, so it's going to be 1, middle, and end. Maximum happens at 1/4 of the way, but because there's a reflection, it's actually a minimum. So right here at pi over 4, I'm going to go down to negative 6. And the the minimum occurs 3/4 of the way, but because of the reflection, it goes up. So then that means right here between the pi and the 3 pi over 2, right here on the 2. Okay? And so connect the dots. Whoops, it's kind of crooked. Connect the dots. That's one period right there. We're going to extend it. So let's see. Keep counting the same. Like every two squares, draw a tick mark. And so this is going to be 5 pi over 2, 3 pi because it's 6 pi over 2, 7 pi over 2. This is 4 pi. And that should be enough right there. Go back to the red. And so this is the beginning, the middle, and the end. Because remember, everything moved over to the left, pi over 4 units, so 1 square. Okay, so normally we would do the maximum at 1/4 of the way, but because it's a reflection, it goes to the bottom. And then at 3/4 of the way, we would normally draw the minimum, but because of the reflection, it's actually a maximum. So right here, connect those points. And there you have 2 periods. And there's not really enough room to draw another period, so we'll stop here. So here is 1 period up to here, and then here's another period to here. Okay, for numbers 4 and 5, we're going to be using the same graph, and we need to identify the parameters. For number 4, they want you guys to write a sign graph. Okay, a sign equation rather. So, oh, that's another thing. Several of you forgot to put y equals or f of x equals. Either one would have been fine. Okay, it's an equation, so there has to be an equal sign in your answer. So if you take a look at this graph, the maximum is here at 5, and the minimum is here at 1. So it goes from 1 to 5. So halfway between there is 3. So that means that at y equals 3, there's your horizontal asymptote right there. Okay? So that helps you to find the amplitude. So from 3 to 5, from here to here, is 2. Or if you go to the bottom, from the line to the minimum is 2. So the amplitude is 2. Now the period, we want to see how long the cycle is. So it starts here at 0 and it ends at 4 pi. Okay, that's a complete cycle. That's a sine graph right there. It goes from here to middle and then minimum to 0, like that. So it's 4 pi. So 4 pi equals 2 pi over b, the period. Well, remember we solve for b, so we end up with b equals 2 pi over 4 pi, which is a half. So b is a half. And because it's a sine graph, I don't see any, there's no horizontal translation, right? Because I have the 0, the beginning right here. But there is a vertical translation. So this one does have a vertical translation of positive 2. No, sorry, take it back. Of 3. Okay, it went up, that dotted line is at y equals 3. So your final equation would be either f of x, if you want to use f of x, equals the amplitude, which is 2 sine 1/2, because that's b, x plus 2. You could have used y equals if you wanted to. Perfectly okay. So here's the answer for number 4. Okay? Well, here's an answer, because you could have other equations with sign, but this is the simplest one. Okay? For number 5, they want you to draw or to write a cosine equation. Again, Equation means there has to be an equal in your answer, an equal sign. So now it's cosine. Well, if you remember, cosine either starts at maximum maximum or minimum minimum. So I will say for this one that I wanted to start right here. Here's a maximum, and it's going to end over here. Okay, so it goes from pi to 5 pi. Now, the period is the same for number 4 and 5 because it's the same graph. So the period is the same, the amplitude is the same. Okay, and the vertical translation is the same. The only thing that changes is the horizontal translation. Okay, but the period, the amplitude, and the vertical translation should be the same for both answers. Okay, but the horizontal translation, I have many choices, but I can say if I want it to be a positive amplitude, a positive a value in my equation, I'm going to use the one I marked right now, the one in blue. And so that's going to be, I'll use y this time, y equals 2 cosine. Now, 1/2, right, because that's my b value, parentheses, I moved to the right, right? This blue line is to the right of the y-axis, so that means it's going to be minus. And then how much did I move? I moved pi units. And then plus 3. Okay, because remember, both equations, 4 and 5, have the same amplitude, same period, same vertical translation. Now, some of you distributed the 1/2 but didn't do it correctly. If you wanted to distribute the 1/2, it should have been 2 cosine parentheses 1/2 x minus pi over 2 plus 3. Okay, now let's say that you wanted your equation to have a negative a value. Okay, you wanted it to start at the bottom. So I'm marking it in green, be over here, you can see it, to the left. Okay, so from bottom to bottom, so that would be from negative pi over here to 3 pi. Okay, again, same period, same amplitude, same vertical translation. The only thing that changes here is, well, a couple of things. The a is negative now because we're starting at the bottom, and the horizontal translation, it's moving to the left. So you could write your equations y equals negative 2 cosine 1/2 x plus pi plus 3. Why plus pi? Because we're moving to the left. Okay? And same thing as the equation right above, if you want to distribute the 1/2, it should be y equals negative 2 cosine 1/2 x plus pi over 2 plus 3. And there you have it. Talk to you guys later.